everybody, it's Anna. So I'm doing this special video because I've been asked to review a new tarot deck. I was sent the tarot deck a few weeks ago and I've spent some time looking at it. And it is called the Native Spirit Tarot. So if after this review you want to look into buying that deck, I'm going to include the link below. You can do that there. I was asked by the company if I wanted to receive a commission for this review. I decided not to. So this is just me telling you my opinion so you can make the decision that works for you. So if you want to buy it, cool. If you don't want to buy it, cool, right? So start with some pragmatics. It comes in this cardboard box, which if I was going to use this deck very often, I would replace this box immediately because I'm definitely going to destroy this box. I'm very tough on my tarot goods. So I would probably buy a bag to put it in, or I might buy, a sturdier box. So some decks do come with like a nice sturdy box. I have a few like that. I love it. But this one would not survive for long. It also has a tarot guidebook, which comes with every deck, and it's very standard description. So if you need that, it's right there. I will say that my relationship to tarot was very pragmatic. I use the cards to get to surface insights as quickly as possible to figure out patterns and to work with clients, right? So I do not use the tarot for beautiful art. In fact, and there's gorgeous decks out there, but every time I've gotten a deck that was beautiful, I discovered I couldn't use it well because it was, especially very artistic decks, are so far off of the Rider-Waite, which is what I use regularly, that when I would pull them, I'd have to, in my mind, remember what the Rider-Waite looked like in order to complete the reading. So for me, the Rider-Waite is like my husband that I've been married to for 19 years. Like, I don't have to figure it out. There's several clues into the cards that I can use that to really develop the message I'm trying to come out with. And the other decks are like, dating somebody very new. I had to figure them out. So I don't want to waste time doing that. So I've given away those decks to other people. They're beautiful and I love them, but they don't serve for what I do, which is very practical, cut to the chase, let's get things done. So that being said, this deck is actually was a surprise to me because it's very reminiscent of the Rider-Waite. I could easily work this deck in and know what it is. So that was kind of nice because often decks are so artistic. They don't have very little resemblance to the original Rider-Waite. So if you're connected to the Rider-Waite, if that's where you're familiar with, this deck will feel very familiar to you. Now, how it's different, of course, is that the Rider-Waite is very European. It's a medieval European deck. It has white people, all white people, and also the Judeo-Christian symbols are throughout it. So it's very specific to white Europeans. And this is, of course, it's the Native Spirit deck. So it has depictions of Native people from the American continent and the society and culture they live in. So it feels very different image-wise, but it's reminiscent enough of the Rider-Waite that it feels like you could easily step into the Rider-Waite position for me, which is important for me. So I'm going to show you some images. I picked out several cards because I just think it's fun to look at images and it gives you an idea of what they look like. So this is the Fool card. You can see it's very similar to Rider-Waite. That's what I'm going to talk about is how it works for me. The Rider-Waite has a fella who's about to step off a cliff. He's got a dog with him. He's in mountains. That's what this guy's doing. So feels very familiar as a Fool card, but it's different in the sense that the coloring is sort of earth toned and of course it's a different image altogether. We've got the Lovers here, which is very nice card. It's got two people. It's got the trees in the background. It doesn't have, from the Rider-Waite, that traditional Genesis story imagery where there's a snake and there's a tree. There are trees in this, but it takes out that piece of the story, which for me, sometimes I use that piece of the story. But it's still a lovely card that feels very similar to the Rider-Waite. This is the Star card. It is beautiful, of course. So you can see there's some really gorgeous, it almost feels photorealistic a little. When I opened the deck, it felt like it had some photorealism feeling to it, although it is not photos, but it feels a little like photos. And then there's the Sun card, which is also very nice. I like that a lot. And these are all the cards I think are really similar to the Rider-Waite, to the point that I could open this deck and pull these cards and I would it's close enough to the imagery that I would know right away what it meant. I wouldn't have to in my mind come up with a Rider-Waite to be able to read the cards. And I like this one too, the 10 of Cups. It's got that rainbow in the sky with the cups and the family beneath it. And so you can feel that they're how similar it is. How it's not similar is obviously it's kind of a muted color palette, which is different than the Rider-Waite, because you can see this is the Rider-Waite behind me, very bright colors, and the colors are part of the symbolism of the cards. So when you take out the colors and make it all kind of muted, which is an artistic choice, that is a piece of the symbolism of the Rider-Waite you're losing. You don't have the reds or the blues. You're missing some of the vibrancy of it. Which again takes a little bit. They're more simple than the Rider-Waite. They're simpler images, which means if you look at these cards, they're chock full of imagery, purposefully, and the imagery is not artistic, it is purposeful, it's symbolic. So I like to use the cards that way. So in these cards, I'm going to show you where some symbols are missing, that if I was using these cards with a client, I would have to, if I wanted to use those pieces of the symbols, I'd have to go back to the Rider-Waite to do so. But anyway, we've got the Death card, which is a nice card. Although it feels different than the Rider-Waite, because in the Rider-Waite, this feels like this man is out on this field looking at a battlefield after the battle is over. So it feels very kind of heavy and dark. But my work with the Death card basically shows the skeleton knight coming in and knocking down an old leader. So I think of the Death card as a very empowered lesson about taking over and throwing over tyranny and starting something new. This does not feel quite the same way. It doesn't quite evoke the same lesson for me. Another issue that I have with this, it's not an issue, but instead of swords, of course, they have arrows, which makes sense. But all of the arrows cards are missing water. And in the swords trajectory in the Rider-Waite, the water is very important to me, because swords are connected to the mind, and water is connected to intuition. So the fact that water shows up in the sword trajectory is very deliberate and very purposeful. It reminds us that the mind needs to be balanced with intuition, and especially in cards like the 8 of swords, or the 8 of, in this case, arrows, is the woman's in a cage. It feels she's trapped, the cage of swords or the cage of arrows. She's blindfolded, she's bound. I don't think she's bound in this one very much, but under her feet are the pools of water, and it reminds her that even though she seems to be trapped, she's really not, and if she can let her intuition help her, she'll get free. So it's a card about empowerment, but the key to the empowerment is intuition, and not having the water in the arrow suit, to me, is problematic. You lose something there. There's another arrow that I thought was, the 10 of arrows, which is the man lying face down with the arrows or the swords in his back. In the Rider-Waite, he's next to an ocean, and the ocean is the symbol of your mind is now free from its work. Here is the journey, your intuitive journey to go the next step. And the fact that that's missing here, I really would miss that working with the arrows trajectory or the swords trajectory in this deck. In addition, there's a few others I just wanted to show, like the 5 of Pentacles. In the Rider-Waite, it shows 2 people who are in rags walking in the snow, and one's got a crutch, and they're old, they're tired and they're poor. It feels very bedraggled, very, very heavy. But in the background is a church, is a stained glass window, and I always use that. So in this card, it does have the 5 coins, and they're walking, and they kind of look hunched over, but it doesn't feel the same way. And the fact that there isn't a stained glass window implying the church is nearby, that would be a significant symbol missing for me. And then I'll close with this one, and that's the Wheel of Fortune. I love this card. I think it's really cool. But it's a dream catcher standing in for the Wheel of Fortune, and it looks similar, and it would evoke for me the Wheel of Fortune. But the Wheel of Fortune is literally a wheel that's moving, and that's part of the lesson, is that the world is constantly changing, and we are constantly, and we have to figure out what to do with the good times, the bad times, what we like, what we don't like. That's really a significant part of the lesson that I pull from the Wheel of Fortune. And the dream catcher is a very different symbol. For one thing, it's stable, it's static, it doesn't turn, it doesn't move, and it's also, I think, about protection, or like losing your, there's possibly a way I could work it in, but I'm saying that it's different enough from the Wheel of Fortune in the Rider-Waite that I would have to work to figure out how to get back to my lesson. And for me, the way I read the cards doesn't change. It does change depending on where the cards fall in a trajectory or in a spread, or like what questions I'm asking. I'm always playing with them. But because I'm constantly playing with the cards in that way, my relationship to them has to be pretty stable. So I definitely could see me using these cards, but I could also see me pulling a spread in these and then being like, oh, let me pull it again in the Rider-Waite. I have to find the Rider-Waite cards if I wanted to use it with a client, because there are some symbols that I really do need in order to do my readings properly. So that is my take here. Again, I'll leave that link below if you want to check out these cards. I think they're nice. They're kind of dark, but I mean, that could just be because I'm used to the Rider-Waite, which is really bright. But I think the art's very pretty. I think they're high quality cards, that they're kind of a nice heavy card stock. So yeah, if you're someone who loves interesting imagery, or who loves the Rider-Waite and just wants to have a different cultural experience in the cards, this is probably your deck. So yeah, leave your comments below if you'd like to, and otherwise I'll just see you next time. Bye.